The infertile alien princess was given to a human. Now the king rages over the unexpected heir. Different worlds, different species, and different ways of life often collided, sometimes peacefully, sometimes violently. One such collision was about to happen between Earth and the distant kingdom of Gyral. Humans had long been curious about other intelligent life in the stars, and Gyral was known as a proud and powerful civilization. Their technology was beyond anything humans could imagine, and their culture was rich with traditions and secrets. For years, diplomats on both sides had tried to form a treaty, a bond that would ensure peace and mutual cooperation. Yet mistrust ran deep. Gyral's king, a stern and proud figure named King Thalion, had little patience for humans, whom he saw as reckless and unpredictable. And humans, with their boldness and curiosity, often frightened the careful Gyrali. So when King Thalion made a decision to send a gift to Earth, it was not a simple gesture. He sent Princess Calith, his only daughter, and the rumors surrounding her made the gift even more unusual. It was widely believed across Gyral that Calith could not have children. She had never shown any interest in forming a family, and many in the royal court whispered that she was infertile. Though the word itself carried no cruelty in their language, it was merely a description of circumstance. Calith was different from anyone on Earth would have expected. She was tall, her skin glimmering faintly with a soft metallic sheen that marked her royal bloodline. Her eyes, a deep shade of violet, could seem distant or piercing, depending on her mood. Her hair flowed like liquid silver, catching the light in a way that made people instinctively admire her. Yet, for all her beauty, there was something carefully contained about her, an aura of control, of intelligence, and of patience. She had been trained her whole life to manage herself and her surroundings. When Calith arrived on Earth, aboard a sleek, silver vessel that shimmered like a mirror against the night sky, the world's attention turned to her. The craft landed in a secure zone far from major cities, surrounded by armed personnel from both species. Humans, who had little experience with alien royalty, could hardly believe the sight before them. There she was, stepping out gracefully, seemingly unaffected by the long journey through space. Marcus Valen, the human diplomat assigned to welcome her, approached with careful respect. He was not tall, not striking, and had a slightly nervous way of speaking, but his eyes were kind and intelligent. He extended his hand to Calith, unsure if she would understand his gesture. To his surprise, she nodded slightly, acknowledging the human custom, and shook his hand firmly. "Princess Calith," Marcus said, his voice steady despite his inner excitement, "welcome to Earth." Calith tilted her head slightly, studying him. She spoke with a voice that was calm but firm, her tone carrying a rhythm unfamiliar to human ears yet easy to understand. "Thank you, Marcus Valen. I hope our meeting can bring understanding between our worlds." Marcus felt a mixture of relief and pride. This was no ordinary diplomatic visit. The entire future of Earth-Gyral relations rested on this encounter. He gestured toward the waiting vehicles. "Shall we proceed?" The princess nodded. As they moved toward the transport, she glanced around, observing everything with sharp eyes. The humans were clumsy compared to Gyrali standards, but they were sincere. There was something in their determination, in their unpredictability, that intrigued her. The journey to the human capital was quiet at first. Marcus tried to make conversation, sharing stories of Earth, its cultures, its achievements. Calith listened, asking questions now and then, her interest polite but guarded. When he spoke of the challenges humans faced, climate change, political conflict, technological limitations, her violet eyes reflected a spark of curiosity. Humans were fragile, yet they persisted. They could adapt and survive in ways that other species, including Gyrali, often underestimated. As the hours passed, the distance between them, both physically and emotionally, seemed to shrink. Calith began to appreciate Marcus's dedication and his willingness to understand her world, even if imperfectly. Marcus, in turn, realized that beneath her calm exterior lay a sharp mind capable of quick decisions and deep insight. By the time they arrived at the capital, Earth's leaders had gathered to witness the historic moment. The building was grand, though modest compared to Gyrali standards. Humans were proud of their achievements, and this meeting symbolized hope for the future. Cameras, journalists, and officials filled the room, all buzzing with anticipation. King Thalion's message was clear. Calith was to stay with Marcus, observe human life, and report back. but there was an underlying tension. On Gyral, some factions had begun to question the decision. Sending the princess to a human was risky, perhaps foolish. Kalith herself felt conflicted. She had trained for diplomacy, yet being treated as a gift unsettled her. She was not a tool, and she did not intend to be one. That evening, after formal introductions, Marcus escorted Kalith to her quarters. The room was comfortable, decorated with familiar human aesthetics, yet infused with subtle alien enhancements that Kalith had requested. She ran her fingers along the smooth walls, noting the differences in material and texture. Humans were creative in ways Jarali rarely considered. They embraced imperfection, and yet those imperfections made their creations vibrant and alive. As Kalith settled in, she allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. She had been raised to follow rules, to serve her kingdom, to uphold her father's expectations. And now, here she was, far from her world, in the hands of a species she barely understood. She wondered what she might learn from humans, and whether they, in turn, might learn from her. The next morning brought the first real challenge. Marcus had planned a tour of the city, hoping to introduce Kalith to human society, culture, and daily life. It was meant to be educational, a way to foster mutual respect. Yet as they walked through crowded streets, Kalith quickly realized the unpredictability of humans. Street performers, market sellers, children running through fountains, all of it was chaotic but vibrant. She observed, calculated, and slowly smiled. There was energy here that Gyrali cities often lacked, an unpredictability that was both alarming and captivating. Marcus noticed her expression and chuckled softly. "You like it?" he asked. Kalith shook her head, a small smile appearing on her lips. "It is different, but there is life here, a resilience I had not expected." It was a simple comment, yet Marcus felt a surge of hope. Perhaps Kalith was beginning to see that humans, while fragile, had strengths worth respecting. And in that moment, a subtle bond began to form, a bond that neither could fully understand yet, but one that might prove crucial in the trials to come. Back on Gyral, King Thalion watched the reports with a frown. He had hoped this exchange would strengthen ties, but he sensed the unpredictability inherent in humans. Sending his daughter, even one believed infertile, to such a volatile environment was a gamble. He did not yet know that the most extraordinary events were only just beginning. For Kalith and Marcus, the days that followed would be filled with discoveries, about each other, about humanity, and about the limits of expectation. The princess, once considered a political pawn, began to see humans not as inferior beings, but as a species capable of surprising courage and ingenuity. Marcus, once overwhelmed by the enormity of his responsibility, began to see Kalith not as a distant alien figure, but as a partner, someone with insight, intelligence, and determination that could match his own. In the quiet moments of the night, Kalith would gaze out at the city lights, marveling at the blend of chaos and order, of innovation and simplicity. She wondered how a species so young in the galactic timeline could achieve so much, even with limited resources. And in that wonder, a small seed of respect began to grow, a seed that would soon become something far more important, something that neither Gyral nor Earth could have anticipated. Thus began the story of Princess Kalith and Marcus Valen, a human and an alien princess brought together by circumstance, curiosity, and the fragile hope of peace. The galaxy watched with anticipation, for the gift of a princess was more than diplomacy. It was the beginning of a tale that might reshape the stars themselves. The weeks following Princess Kalith's arrival on Earth passed quietly at first, but the calm was deceptive. Marcus Valen and Kalith had settled into a routine, attending diplomatic meetings, touring cities, and observing human life in all its unpredictable glory. Kalith's observations were sharp, her mind noting both the strengths and weaknesses of humanity. She admired their creativity, their boldness, and their capacity to adapt. Yet she could not help but notice the fragility of their world, the way humans struggled against nature, against one another, and sometimes even against themselves. Marcus, meanwhile, had begun to appreciate Kalith in ways he had never expected. Her presence was commanding, yet she listened and learned. She had a quiet confidence, an ability to understand without needing to dominate. For Marcus, this was both intimidating and inspiring. He found himself thinking about her constantly, wondering what she truly felt about Earth, about humans, and about him. It was during one of their routine medical checks, simple by Jirali standards, but advanced by human technology, that Caliph received news that would change everything. Dr. Lena Ortiz, one of Earth's top scientists assigned to monitor Caliph's health, spoke carefully. "Princess Caliph," she began, "I believe you are expecting a child." Caliph froze. For a moment the world seemed to stop. She had been considered infertile for her entire life, and the concept of pregnancy had never been part of her plans. And yet here it was, undeniable, revealed by human science. Marcus, standing beside her, felt a surge of emotion, surprise, joy, and a fierce protective instinct. Is it possible?" he asked, his voice barely steady. Dr. Ortiz nodded. "It is rare, almost unheard of, but the results are clear. Your body is nurturing a child." Caliph's violet eyes widened. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. This was not merely personal, it was political. The child she carried would be a symbol of Earth and Gyral, a living connection between two species that had been wary of each other for centuries. Yet it was also unpredictable. How would her father react? How would the Gyral court interpret this? Marcus reached for her hand. She looked at him unsure and then nodded. "We will face it together," she said quietly. News traveled fast. Within days, intelligence sensors on Gyral detected the change, and King Thalion's reaction was swift and furious. He called for a council of advisors, his voice echoing through the grand halls of the royal palace. "This is unacceptable," he shouted. "The princess was sent as a gift to observe humans and report back, not to carry their child. This is a violation of our plans, our control." His advisors tried to calm him, offering political reasoning and reassurances. Yet the king's anger could not be quelled. In Gyral culture, bloodlines and succession were sacred. The idea that the royal lineage might be influenced by humans, by a species the king considered volatile and reckless, was intolerable. Meanwhile, on Earth, Marcus and Caliph worked to manage the situation. They were careful not to panic, not to draw attention, and not to make any decisions before fully understanding the implications. Caliph's unique biology meant that the child could have abilities neither humans nor Gyrali had anticipated. Even small details of development were fascinating. The child's energy patterns, the interaction of Gyral and human genetics, the potential for strength, intelligence, or even unknown powers. Despite the gravity of the situation, life went on. Caliph learned to navigate Earth with the child in mind. She began to pay attention to nutrition, rest, and the environment around her. Marcus, always attentive, adjusted his schedule to be present for her, learning as much as he could about Gyrali biology, human medicine, and the delicate balance required to keep her safe. The bond between them deepened. Marcus found himself not only respecting Caliph, but caring for her in ways he had never expected. And Caliph, who had always been trained to control her emotions, found herself relying on Marcus's steady presence. In their conversations, she shared memories of Gyral, of its cities, of its traditions. He, in turn, shared stories of Earth, of its history, of the small victories humans had achieved despite overwhelming odds. Yet the world beyond their immediate safety was growing tense. News of Caliph's pregnancy had not stayed hidden for long. Galactic news networks, curious citizens, and spies all began to speculate. Some humans were awed, seeing the unborn child as a bridge between species. Others feared the political consequences, warning of unrest and potential conflict. And Gyral, with its rigid hierarchy and obsession with control, was boiling with anger and uncertainty. King Thalion decided that action was necessary. He would not allow the unexpected heir to remain in human hands without interference. Elite enforcers were prepared, ships readied, and protocols established for a swift intervention if required. The message was clear. The princess's child must be under Gyral control. But Marcus was ready. Though human technology was primitive compared to Gyrali, ingenuity, courage, and unpredictability were humanity's strengths. Marcus and Caliph began to implement security measures, using Earth's defenses in creative ways, and combining them with Gyrali stealth technology she could access discreetly. Safe houses were prepared, routes mapped, and contingencies planned. As Caliph's pregnancy progressed, she began to notice subtle changes in herself beyond the obvious. Her senses seemed heightened, her reflexes sharper, and her mind more attuned to the energies around her. It was as if the child was not merely growing within her, but interacting with the world in ways that both fascinated and unsettled her. Marcus observed these changes with wonder and caution. The child's potential was extraordinary, a blending of species that might exceed the sum of its parts. Despite the looming threat, Caliph and Marcus found moments of peace. They walked through forests, explored rivers, and spent evenings studying the stars. Caliph would often ask questions about humanity, about the ways humans adapted and survived. Marcus would share what he could, telling stories of ingenuity, of small victories that shaped history, and of the indomitable human spirit. One evening, as they watched the sunset over a quiet lake, Caliph spoke softly. "Marcus, I never imagined this life. Not just the child, but this bond, this connection. Humans are unpredictable, yet there is strength in that unpredictability. You and your species, you endure where others might fail." Marcus smiled, feeling both pride and responsibility. "Caliph, you've shown me strength too, not just in your abilities, but in your courage, your wisdom, and your willingness to trust despite uncertainty. Together, we'll face whatever comes." It was not just words. It was a promise, a commitment that transcended species, politics, and expectations. And as the child grew within Caliph, so too did the understanding that this new life was more than a political complication. It was a symbol, a chance to reshape the future. Across the galaxy, King Thalion's fury grew, yet even he could not ignore the quiet reports of Caliph's resilience and Marcus's resourcefulness. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were clever, inventive, and courageous. And Caliph, far from helpless, was showing signs of strength that no one had anticipated. As Earth's days passed, subtle alliances began to form. Some Gyrali officials, quietly observing, began to question the king's rigid stance. They saw the potential in a hybrid child, the possibility of unity rather than conflict. Humans, too, began to appreciate the extraordinary opportunity before them. If the child could survive, if Caliph and Marcus could succeed, the galaxy might witness a new era of cooperation and understanding. And so, the seeds of change were planted. A princess believed Infertile, a human diplomat, and an unborn child became the focal point of a story that would challenge traditions, defy expectations, and ignite hope across worlds. For Caliph and Marcus, each day brought new challenges but also new discoveries, about themselves, about each other, and about the remarkable resilience of life. Even in the face of anger, uncertainty, and danger, one truth became clear: the unexpected could change everything. And in this new era, the galaxy would soon learn that humans, though underestimated, could shape destiny in ways that even the most powerful rulers could not predict. The quiet days that Caliph and Marcus had enjoyed on Earth were shattered when the first signs of Gyral's wrath arrived. King Thalion could not ignore the news of his daughter's pregnancy. In his mind, the union of a human and a Gyrali princess was a betrayal of the royal line and the traditions he had worked all his life to protect. In the throne room of the grand Gyral palace, the king's anger filled the space. Crystal walls amplified his voice as he summoned his closest advisors and the leaders of the royal enforcers. "This cannot continue," Thalion roared, his eyes blazing violet, reflecting the same royal hue that marked Caliph. "The princess was sent to observe, not to carry a human child. This is unacceptable," advisors tried to calm him. "My king, the child is not a threat if handled carefully. It could even be a symbol of unity between Gyral and Earth." The king's hand slammed against the crystal table. "Unity? Do you think a hybrid can be trusted? I will not allow this to spread. Prepare the enforcers. They will return my daughter and remove this anomaly from human hands." On Earth, Marcus and Caliph were unaware of the full scale of the king's anger, but they could feel the pressure growing. Strange signals, subtle at first, indicated that Gyral was tracking Caliph's location. Advanced reconnaissance drones had begun orbiting the planet, and unusual communications patterns hinted at imminent action. Marcus called a private meeting with his security team and doctor. "Ortiz, they know," he said grimly. "The king knows about the child. They will try to take Caliph and the baby." Dr. Ortiz nodded, her expression serious. "We need to be ready. Gyral technology is far superior, but humans have advantages too: creativity, unpredictability, and resourcefulness." Caliph listened quietly, her mind already analyzing possibilities. "We must anticipate every move. We cannot underestimate them, but neither can we panic." Preparation is our strongest defense. They began fortifying their living area, using both human technology and Calith's alien knowledge. Shields, communication scramblers, and hidden escape routes were installed. Every plan Marcus and Calith made was layered with contingencies. Humans might lack the raw power of gyral enforcers, but they could think in ways the aliens did not expect. Then, the first attack came. Under the cover of night, a small fleet of gyral ships appeared in orbit. Their mission was clear: recover Princess Calith and the unborn child, no matter the cost. Marcus coordinated the defense. Using a combination of Earth satellites, improvised decoys, and rapid electronic countermeasures, he managed to misdirect some of the ships. Calith, observing from the control room, felt the strain but also the thrill. Her training allowed her to calculate movements, anticipate enemy strategies, and guide the humans efficiently. "You are underestimating us," she said quietly, almost to herself. Then, looking at Marcus, she added, "Humans can surprise anyone who underestimates them, even a king." The gyral enforcers landed a small reconnaissance team near their safe house. Marcus and Calith had prepared for this possibility. Using clever traps and technological misdirections, they managed to delay and confuse the intruders. The enforcers were highly trained, but human creativity and Calith's insight proved to be formidable. The battle was subtle, more about intelligence and strategy than raw force. Humans and Gyrali exchanged electronic signals, set decoys, and created false trails. The enforcers adapted quickly, but so did Marcus and Calith. The tension was electric. Every decision could mean the difference between safety and capture. Amidst the chaos, Calith felt the child move. A small, rhythmic shift inside her reminded her of what was at stake. This was no longer just about survival. It was about protecting a life that symbolized hope, unity, and the untapped potential of a hybrid being. She tightened her focus, channeling her energy into guiding Marcus. Marcus, for his part, demonstrated the ingenuity of humanity. He coordinated multiple teams, redirected resources, and improvised solutions on the spot. Where gyral technology relied on precision and pattern, humans relied on unpredictability. It was this unpredictability that gave them an edge, even against opponents who were stronger and faster. Over the next few days, the conflict escalated. Skirmishes occurred in orbit, with humans using clever maneuvers to evade the gyral fleet. On the ground, small teams defended critical locations, using terrain, stealth, and ingenuity to outmaneuver the aliens. Calith's presence provided both guidance and morale. She was no longer just a princess. She was a strategist, a protector, and a symbol of resistance. During one particularly tense encounter, Marcus and Calith had to escape a gyral landing team that had traced them to a remote facility. Using a combination of human ingenuity and Calith's alien knowledge, they created a diversion, a series of holographic decoys, false trails, and controlled energy pulses. The enforcers pursued the illusions, allowing Marcus and Calith to slip away unnoticed. Breathing heavily after their escape, Marcus looked at Calith. "You were incredible," he said, admiration in his voice. Calith's eyes softened, though the weight of the situation remained. "We survive because we anticipate, because we adapt, but this is only the beginning. My father will not stop until he achieves his goal. We must be ready for whatever comes next." Indeed, King Thalion's wrath grew with each report of failure. His anger at the unexpected pregnancy turned into a personal vendetta. He could not tolerate being outmaneuvered by humans, a species he considered inferior. He doubled his efforts, sending larger fleets, coordinating intelligence operations, and deploying elite enforcers to track Marcus and Calith. Yet the humans continued to adapt. Using Earth's natural terrain, clever engineering, and Calith's insight, they evaded capture. Each victory, small though it might seem, proved the value of human creativity. Even the Gyrali enforcers, highly trained and technologically superior, could not predict every human move. During this tense period, Calith began to notice subtle changes in herself. The child inside her seemed unusually aware, responding to threats with small movements that felt intentional. It was as if the unborn child was already learning, adapting, and interacting with the environment. Marcus noticed this too, marveling at the potential of a human-Gyrali hybrid. One night after narrowly escaping a reconnaissance attack, Calith and Marcus sat together under the stars. "This child," Calith said softly, is more than we imagined. It is a bridge between worlds, a new possibility. Perhaps it will be the beginning of a future neither of our species has seen. Marcus nodded, holding her hand. We will protect it, Caliph. Humans have faced impossible odds before, and we will face them again. This child will not just survive, it will thrive. The days turned into weeks, and each challenge brought them closer. Caliph's confidence grew, and Marcus learned to trust not only his instincts but also her guidance. They began to work seamlessly together, a team capable of outsmarting forces far stronger than themselves. But even as they found strength in each other, the threat from Gyral loomed. King Thalion was relentless, coordinating new strategies and preparing for the ultimate confrontation. The humans and Caliph were ready, but they knew that every victory would lead to a larger challenge. The galaxy was watching, and the stage was being set for an epic struggle that would test courage, intelligence, and the limits of endurance. Amidst the uncertainty, one truth became clear. Underestimated humans, with creativity, adaptability, and courage, could defy expectations. And Caliph, once thought fragile and powerless, had become a symbol of resilience. Together, they were not just surviving, they were shaping the future. The king's wrath was coming, but Caliph and Marcus were ready. They had faced impossible odds before, and they would face them again. The unborn child represented hope, unity, and a power that neither humans nor Gyrali could fully comprehend. And as they prepared for the battles ahead, they understood that this was more than a struggle for survival. It was the beginning of a story that could change the galaxy itself. The child grew quietly within Caliph, yet its presence was powerful. Every movement, every subtle shift in Caliph's energy seemed to announce that something extraordinary was happening. Humans had never seen anything like this, and even Caliph, trained in every aspect of Gyrali biology, found herself both fascinated and cautious. The unborn child was more than a life. It was a symbol, a bridge between two species, and a beacon of potential that neither Earth nor Gyral could ignore. Marcus observed Caliph closely. He marveled at her strength, the way she adapted to the child's needs, and the way she remained calm despite the growing threats. Every day, he learned more about her, about Gyrali culture, and about the remarkable biology that allowed her to carry a hybrid child. The bond between them deepened, not just as protectors and diplomats, but as partners facing a challenge that could change the galaxy. But danger was never far. King Thalion's fury had only grown since the first signs of the pregnancy. Reports of Caliph and Marcus evading his forces had reached him, and his pride would not allow him to delay action any longer. He summoned his elite commanders. "This child must not be raised outside of Gyral," he said, his voice cold and commanding. "Prepare the fleets. The princess and her child will return to me, by force if necessary." The king's words were broadcasted in private channels, ensuring that his orders reached only the most trusted enforcers. Yet he underestimated the preparation that humans and Caliph had undertaken. They had spent weeks fortifying safe houses, establishing hidden communication networks, and training small teams of humans to respond quickly to threats. Every strategy accounted for Gyral's superior technology, every contingency designed to protect the unborn heir. As Caliph's pregnancy progressed, she began to notice subtle changes in herself that were unusual even for Gyrali biology. Her senses became sharper, her reflexes quicker, and her awareness of her surroundings heightened. It was as if the child was interacting with the world in ways that went beyond normal development. Marcus noticed these changes too, and he could not help but feel a mixture of awe and caution. The child was already extraordinary. The first direct confrontation came one quiet evening. Scouts from Gyral had tracked them to a secluded facility on Earth's northern continent. Marcus and Caliph had anticipated such a move and were ready. Using advanced camouflage, decoys, and a combination of Earth and Gyrali technology, they managed to mislead the enforcers. The aliens arrived to find empty buildings, false signals, and no trace of their target. Caliph watched through the control room, her eyes scanning multiple screens. "They will adapt," she said calmly. "But we will always have a step ahead if we think differently. They rely on strength and precision. We rely on unpredictability," Marcus nodded. "Then let's keep them guessing." The strategy worked for weeks. The Gyrali forces were skilled, but they could not predict the improvisation and creativity of humans guided by Calith's insight. Each encounter, though minor, demonstrated a principle that humans had always relied on. Ingenuity could match or even exceed raw power when combined with courage and determination. The child's presence seemed to influence more than just Calith. The energy that radiated from her body affected the environment subtly. Plants seemed to grow faster, animals became unusually calm, and even electronic systems occasionally showed unexpected responses. Scientists monitoring Calith were astounded. If the child inherited any part of these abilities, it could represent a leap in evolution for both species. Word of the unexpected heir began to spread. Whispers traveled through human scientific circles and sympathetic alien observers alike. Many began to see the child as a potential bridge between worlds, a being that could unite species rather than divide them. Some humans argued for public protection, while Gyrali, who disagreed with the king, quietly supported Calith and Marcus, recognizing the child's potential to reshape tradition. Yet the tension was unrelenting. King Thalion was growing impatient. His fleets patrolled more aggressively, and elite enforcers were deployed to track even the smallest clues. He could not comprehend why his daughter and the child had evaded capture for so long. Pride, anger, and fear pushed him toward a final, decisive strategy. Marcus and Calith, aware of the growing danger, began to implement more advanced measures. They constructed hidden bases across multiple continents, each equipped with technology that could mask their presence from alien sensors. Training sessions were held, teaching humans to anticipate Gyrali tactics and respond with quick improvisation. Even simple tools, like reflective surfaces, sound mirrors, and decoy drones, were employed with brilliant effect. Through it all, Calith's own strength grew. She was no longer just a passenger in her own life. She guided operations, trained allies, and used her knowledge of Gyrali's strategy to outmaneuver forces that were far more powerful. Marcus admired her courage, but he also felt a deep concern for her safety. Each day, the pregnancy advanced, and the child became more vital to protect. One night, as they observed the stars, Calith spoke softly. "Marcus, I feel it moving more strongly now. The child, it reacts to danger. It is learning, adapting. Perhaps it already understands that it must survive." Marcus gently took her hand. "Then we will help it survive. Whatever comes, we face it together." It was not just emotional support, it was a promise. And in the coming weeks, that promise would be tested. The next confrontation was larger and more dangerous. Gyrali forces, frustrated by repeated failures, sent a coordinated team with both ground and aerial units. Marcus and Calith anticipated the attack, using a combination of traps, misdirection, and environmental advantage to minimize danger. Trees, hills, and rivers became strategic tools. Human ingenuity turned ordinary landscapes into complex defenses that even advanced technology could not fully penetrate. Calith moved with confidence, guiding humans and coordinating defenses. Marcus observed the tactical advantage of combining alien knowledge with human creativity. Even the most skilled Gyrali enforcers were challenged by the unpredictable responses they encountered. During a brief lull in the conflict, Calith allowed herself a quiet moment. She touched her stomach and whispered, "You are more than I imagined. You are hope." Marcus felt a surge of determination. "And we will protect that hope. No matter what the king sends, no matter what the galaxy thinks, we will keep this child safe." As the battles continued, alliances quietly formed. Some Gyrali, impressed by Calith's courage and the potential of the unborn child, began to support her secretly. Humans, inspired by her strength and the ingenuity required to survive, showed incredible resilience. Small victories, clever maneuvers, and adaptive strategies kept Marcus, Calith, and the child safe. It became clear that the child was more than a life. It was a symbol of unity, courage, and potential. Its very existence challenged expectations, defied predictions, and illuminated the hidden strengths of humans. Where Gyril relied on precision and power, humans relied on unpredictability and courage. And in every encounter, the combination of human ingenuity and Calith's experience proved unstoppable. King Thalion, watching from his palace, could not comprehend the repeated failures. Pride, anger, and fear consumed him. Yet even he had to admit deep down that the child, and the humans protecting it, were extraordinary. Perhaps, he thought reluctantly, there was more to this unexpected heir than he had imagined. Caliph and Marcus, aware of the magnitude of what they were protecting, did not relax. Each day brought new challenges, but also new opportunities to learn, adapt, and strengthen the bonds between human and alien allies. They were preparing not just for survival, but for the moment when the child would emerge into the galaxy, an heir capable of changing history. As the stars glittered overhead, Caliph and Marcus stood side by side, watching the night sky. "The child is more than our responsibility," Caliph said quietly. "It is the future, and we must ensure that it survives to fulfill that potential." Marcus nodded. "Humans are underestimated, but we endure, and together we are stronger than anyone expects." The galaxy waited, unaware that the story unfolding on Earth would soon challenge every expectation, break traditions, and reveal the extraordinary potential of a human-alien hybrid. The child inside Caliph was the key to a new era, one that could unite worlds, spark hope, and show that even the most underestimated species could change destiny. The stage was set. The unexpected heir would soon make its presence felt, and no king, no empire could ignore the power of courage, intelligence, and determination. The quiet tension that had hung over Caliph and Marcus's life finally reached its climax. After months of preparation, planning, and careful evasion, the moment had arrived. Caliph's pregnancy was in its final stage, and the child she carried, the hybrid heir, was ready to enter the galaxy. The air was thick with anticipation, both human and alien forces watching closely, though most were unaware of the true significance of what was about to happen. Marcus stood beside Caliph in the hidden medical facility they had prepared, holding her hand gently. He felt a mixture of awe, nervousness, and determination. The months of danger, planning, and shared experiences had forged a bond between them stronger than either had expected. This child was not only their responsibility, it was a symbol of hope, unity, and the unpredictable power of life. Caliph took a deep breath, her violet eyes calm yet filled with focus. "Marcus, the child is ready. We must remain calm, strong, and united." "Everything we have prepared will be needed now." Marcus nodded, squeezing her hand. "I am with you, Caliph, every step, every moment. We face this together." The birth itself was extraordinary. Caliph's unique biology, combined with advanced human medical support and subtle alien technology, made the process smooth, though intense. As the child emerged, a subtle energy radiated through the room, faint at first, then growing in intensity. The child's skin shimmered softly, carrying hints of both gyrali elegance and human vitality. Its eyes opened, revealing a deep, luminous hue that seemed to reflect both species in perfect harmony. The medical team stepped back in awe. Even human scientists were unable to fully comprehend the signals emanating from the newborn. It was clear that this child, this hybrid, was not ordinary. Its very presence carried potential beyond imagination. A being that could bridge worlds, influence energy fields, and perhaps even inspire unity among species that had long been separated by fear and misunderstanding. Marcus cradled the child gently, feeling its warmth, its life force, and its connection to both Caliph and himself. He looked at her, eyes filled with wonder and love. "It's perfect," he whispered. Caliph smiled, exhausted but radiant. "It is more than perfect. It is the future." Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, King Thalion observed events through advanced surveillance. He had planned to seize the princess and the child, to assert control over what he considered a political and personal threat. Yet now, watching the newborn, even the proud king felt a pang of awe mixed with uncertainty. The child's presence was undeniable, its potential undeniable, and its very existence challenged everything he believed about control, power, and destiny. The king's advisors urged him to act immediately. "Father," one said, "we can still claim the child. The princess and the human are unprepared. Strike now and assert your authority." Thalion shook his head slowly, a quiet thoughtfulness settling over him for the first time in months. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "we have underestimated what life itself can create. Perhaps this child is not a threat, but a bridge we did not foresee." Back on Earth, Marcus and Caliph prepared for the inevitable contact with gyral forces. Though the king's attitude had softened slightly, the galaxy remained tense, and the potential for conflict was high. Humans and Gyrali, who had secretly supported Calith, now moved openly to ensure her safety, creating alliances that transcended old enmities. The first meeting between Calith, Marcus, and representatives from Gyral was tense. The king arrived aboard a massive vessel, flanked by his most trusted advisors. Yet he did not bring enforcers ready for violence. Instead, he came with caution, curiosity, and an unspoken acknowledgement of the child's importance. Calith held the child carefully as they approached the vessel. Marcus stayed close, ready to respond, but he sensed a shift in the atmosphere. The king's eyes, once sharp with fury, now carried hesitation, wonder, and an almost human curiosity. "This is our child," Calith said softly, her voice steady yet filled with quiet authority. "It belongs to both worlds, to the future we can create together." Thalion studied the child, and for the first time the rigid king seemed to see beyond rules and expectations. The hybrid being before him represented not just life, but unity, courage, and the unexpected potential that comes from cooperation rather than dominance. The king nodded slowly. "Perhaps we have been wrong," he said. "This child may be a symbol of what we can achieve together, rather than what divides us." Across the galaxy, the news of the birth and the child's extraordinary abilities spread quickly. Humans and sympathetic Gyrali celebrated quietly, while skeptics waited to see the outcome. Yet even the most cautious observers could not deny the impact. The child's very presence changed perspectives, inspired hope, and demonstrated the strength that could emerge when differences were embraced rather than feared. In the following weeks, Calith, Marcus, and their child traveled openly between Earth and Gyral, guided by careful diplomacy and strategic planning. The child's presence required constant protection, yet it also fostered alliances that had once seemed impossible. Humans who had underestimated themselves now took pride in their ingenuity and courage, while Gyrali learned that adaptability, creativity, and emotional strength were just as powerful as technology and tradition. Calith's relationship with Marcus continued to deepen, not only as partners but as co-leaders in a new era. They trained, strategized, and nurtured their child, aware that the galaxy was watching. Every decision they made would influence the perception of humans and Gyrali alike. Yet they remained calm, relying on trust, intelligence, and mutual respect. The child, even in its earliest months, displayed remarkable signs of potential. It responded to both human and Gyrali languages, recognized patterns in the environment, and seemed to sense danger before it arrived. Scientists from both species observed these abilities with wonder, realizing that the child represented a leap in understanding, cooperation, and evolution. One evening, as the sun set over Earth's oceans, Calith held the child close. "It is amazing," she whispered. "This little life, it carries the hopes of two worlds. Perhaps it will teach us more than we ever imagined." Marcus rested his hand on hers. "It already has. Humans are stronger than we often believe. And together with the child, we will shape a future that is unexpected, resilient, and united." King Thalion, observing quietly from Gyral, made a surprising decision. He called a council not to demand control, but to propose collaboration. Humans and Gyrali would work together to ensure the child's safety, study its development, and use its potential to inspire peace and progress. For the first time, tradition yielded to wisdom, pride softened by understanding. Across both worlds, the story of Calith, Marcus, and the Unexpected Heir became legend. Humans, once underestimated, proved that courage, creativity, and perseverance could rival even the most technologically advanced civilizations. Gyrali, once rigid in their ways, learned that adaptability, compassion, and collaboration could shape a future more powerful than control and domination. The child grew under careful guidance, a living symbol of unity. Its existence challenged fears, inspired hope, and demonstrated the untapped potential of life itself. Calith and Marcus, together, became pioneers of a new era, leaders who had shown that the most extraordinary strength could emerge from the most unexpected places. And as the stars shone above, humans and Gyrali alike understood a simple truth. Resilience, intelligence, and courage were forces no ruler, no empire, and no expectation could contain. The galaxy had witnessed the power of unity, the importance of hope, and the remarkable potential of life that bridged worlds. Calith looked down at her child, violet eyes reflecting the starlight. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. The galaxy will never be the same. Marcus smiled, his hand resting over hers. No, it won't, and humans, we will rise to meet whatever comes. The unexpected heir had arrived, and with it a new era began, a time of cooperation, courage, and endless possibilities. The galaxy was changing, and humanity's story had just begun to shine among the stars.